They say, loyalty is everything in love. But what happens when trust is shattered by undeniable proof? In a moment that has left fans speechless and social media in flames, Papoose, the man long celebrated for being hip-hop's most loyal husband, has finally reached his breaking point. The internet is reeling after reports claim he publicly dumped Remy Ma, the very woman he stood by through prison bids, controversy, and career ups and downs. And the reason? A shocking hotel video that allegedly changes everything. That's right. Whispers had been circulating for weeks. Strange body language at events, cryptic Instagram captions, and that one uncomfortable red carpet moment that nobody could quite explain. But no one, not even Rees, most vocal critics, saw this coming. According to sources close to the couple, the damning footage allegedly shows Remy Ma with another man in what looks like an intimate moment at a well-known downtown hotel. And that man, rumor has it, it's someone very close to Papoose, a name that's already making headlines. Papoose, known for keeping his composure, reportedly snapped the moment he laid eyes on the clip. Witnesses say the scene was tense, raw, and heartbreaking. And when he finally confronted Remy Ma, not behind closed doors, but publicly in front of cameras, crew members, and mutual friends, the fallout was instant. Tears, shouting, a ring removed, and the kind of silence that screams louder than any words. Fans are in complete disbelief. Is this the end of hip-hop's power couple? What really happened in that hotel room? And how did the footage even get out? In this exclusive deep dive, we're breaking down every shocking detail, every explosive moment, and the emotional aftermath that has left the hip-hop world completely rattled. From the moment Papoose saw the footage to the confrontation that shifted their inner circle and the truth Remy didn't want out. You're about to get all the inside tea. From the outside, they were untouchable. A couple forged in the fires of struggle, loyalty, and perseverance. Papoose and Remy Ma, once hailed as the body and plighted of hip-hop, seemed invincible. Fans looked up to them not just as artists, but as symbols of black love, raw, unbreakable, and real. But behind the filtered selfies and staged red carpet appearances, something was shifting. It started suddenly. Pap and Remy hadn't been posting each other as much. No birthday tributes, no gushy anniversary messages. And when Remy Ma was spotted at an after-party without her wedding ring, wearing a tight black dress and laughing just a little too hard with a certain familiar face, the gossip blogs went into overdrive. At first, people ignored it. After all, every relationship has ups and downs, right? But then came the whispers, the backroom chatter, the late-night sightings in places Papoose was definitely not at. One blogger, a lesser-known but well-connected YouTuber who specializes in hip-hop TI, posted a blurred image of what looked like Remy Ma and another man walking through a hotel hallway at 17 a.m. The caption, "That ain't Pap and this ain't love." Within hours, Twitter exploded. The comments came flying in. This can't be real. Remy wouldn't do that if this is true. I feel bad for Pat. He's held her down since day one. Not Remy out here playing Pap like that. The man in the video, at first, it was speculation. The footage was grainy, almost like it had been filmed by hotel security and leaked anonymously. But as people began analyzing it, zooming in frame by frame, the internet did what it always does. And that's when the unthinkable happened. The second photo dropped, and this one. It was clear to Claire. Fat Joe, Ree's longtime friend, her industry. Rideboard Eye, the man who had stayed by her through her darkest moments, who brought her back into the music game, who was like family, like a brother. Or so we thought. Fans were stunned. No one wanted to believe it. But it wasn't just the photo. It was the body language, the closeness, the slight touch of hands as they stood by the elevator. The way Remy leaned in, the way Joe's hand rested, low on her back for just a second too long, and then came the footage. The leaked hotel security video hit the internet like a nuclear bomb. In it, Remy Ma and Fat Joe could be seen entering a hotel suite together. No entourage, no cameras, just the two of them smiling, laughing, moving way too comfortably for two people who were supposedly just friends. And that's when Papoose saw it. Sources close to the couple say he was shown the footage by a close friend, someone who didn't want to believe it either, but knew Pap had to see the truth. He didn't even speak. The source said he just froze. You could see the pain in his face. That man was broken. But Papoose didn't scream. He didn't throw things. He didn't even cry. He just got quiet, dead quiet. And when Remy came home that night, he didn't wait. There was no private talk, no quiet confrontation behind closed doors. No PAP called her out right there in front of everyone at a private birthday party for his cousin in Queens. There were friends, family, industry people in the room. And when Remy walked in smiling, trying to greet everyone like nothing was wrong, Papoose stood up from his seat, looked her dead in the eyes, and asked one question. How long, Remy? The room went silent. People stopped mid-conversation. Cups paused mid-air. Remy froze. What are you talking about, Papoose? Stepped forward. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't play dumb with me. And then he pulled out his phone. He didn't yell, he didn't curse. He just hit play. The room was so quiet you could hear the video from the speakers echo across the walls. Gasps. A woman in the back whispered, "Oh my God." Ree's face dropped. "I can explain," she started, but Papoose cut her off. "Explain what? That you and the man I called my brother been creeping behind my back. That you walked into a hotel room at Toyam with him while I was at home putting our daughter to sleep. That's what you've gone explain." Remy's eyes started to water. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" Papoose's voice cracked, not from anger, but from heartbreak. The room stayed frozen in time. Remy tried to step closer, but Papoose backed away. He looked around at everyone watching, then looked back at her. "I gave you everything, Remy. I waited for you while you were locked up. I held you down when no one else would. I loved you unconditionally, and this is how you repay me." She was crying now, quietly, her voice trembling. "It was a mistake. Joe was just, he was there. I felt alone. You were always working. You were always gone." "No," Papoose said coldly. "Don't you dare blame this on me. You were the one who stepped out, not me, and I ain't about to let you twist this like I failed you." The party was over. Papoose took off his ring slowly and placed it on the table next to the untouched cake. "I'm done, Remy." Then he walked out just like that, and the cameras were still rolling. Because in this new era of social media and reality TV, nothing stays private for long. By the next morning, the footage from the confrontation had already hit every gossip blog on the internet. TikTok clips with dramatic clips, Zoom-ins, Instagram pages breaking down the dialogue, Twitter threads analyzing body language. Papoose just walked away like a king. She really fumbled a legend. Fat Joe and Remy. I'm never listening to Lean Back again. But the story wasn't even close to over, because what Papoose didn't know, what no one knew, was that this hotel incident was just the beginning. And as Maura's secrets started unraveling, it became clear this wasn't just betrayal, this was war. As the footage of Papoose removing his ring and walking out of that room spread like wildfire, the reactions were immediate, brutal, emotional, and impossible to ignore. Fans were shocked, confused, and divided. The once invincible image of Remy and Papoose had cracked, and from that crack poured an avalanche of rumors, accusations, and opinions. People who once celebrated their love story now questioned its authenticity. Had it all been for show? Were the heartfelt interviews, the public tributes, and the tearful award speeches just smoke and mirrors for a relationship built on shaky ground? The betrayal wasn't just a betrayal of love. It felt like a betrayal of an entire culture. For years, the hip-hop community had placed Papoose and Remy Ma on a pedestal. They represented a rare kind of bond, one that survived prison bars, industry, pressure, fame, and personal loss. Their love was the exception to the rule. And now that image had been shattered. Behind the scenes, the fallout was even more devastating than what the public saw. Papoose's inner circle, once loyal to Remy Ma, began cutting ties. Family members were drawn into the storm, many of whom had been there since day one. Those closest to Pap described a man who wasn't just heartbroken, he was disoriented, betrayed not just by his partner, but by someone he considered family. Fat Joe, meanwhile, went completely silent. No social media activity, no statements, no interviews. His camp refused to comment on the footage, adding even more fuel to the speculation. People began digging. Old videos resurfaced. Clips of Joe complimenting Remy a little too affectionately. Red carpet photos where their body language seemed off. Moments during performances when their chemistry looked almost too intense. Suddenly, every glance, every smile, every backstage moment was under scrutiny. The internet became a court of public opinion, and that Joe was on trial. As for Remy Ma, she retreated for days. She didn't post, didn't appear publicly, and didn't speak to the media. Some speculated she was in hiding. Others claimed she had gone to her mother's house in the Bronx trying to escape the whirlwind. Her team issued a vague statement asking for privacy and space, but it only made things worse. The silence was seen not as protection, but as guilt. Meanwhile, Papoose tried to maintain his composure, appearing strong in front of cameras while clearly carrying the weight of devastation. Sources close to him described a man who barely ate, barely slept, and refused to listen to Remy's calls. There was talk that he had moved out of their shared home and into a rental in Jersey, needing space, not just physically, but emotionally. More details emerged. A staff member from the hotel, where the footage had been captured, anonymously leaked that the room had been booked under an alias linked to Remy Ma's touring manager. The leak added credibility to the footage. It wasn't just a random video, it was real. It was intentional, and it was deeply calculated. People now begin wondering if this was a one-time slip or something far worse. A long-standing affair kept secret by layers of loyalty, fame, and fear. Soon, other artists began distancing themselves. Collaborators who had planned joint projects with Remy pulled out quietly. Bookings were canceled. Brand deals went dark. Her public image, once rooted in strength and redemption, was now under fire. She was no longer the woman who made a comeback from prison to dominate the charts. She was the woman who betrayed the man that held her down through it all. And just when the death seemed like it couldn't rise any higher, another leak surfaced. Screenshots of text messages, allegedly between Remy Ma and Fat Joe, appeared on several gossip pages. The tone of the messages was flirty, intimate, and undeniably personal. References to past nights, private meetings, and veiled expressions of desire flooded the timeline. While many questioned the authenticity of the screenshots, others pointed out the timestamps and dates that matched known gaps in Remy's public schedule. The betrayal now had layers, not just physical infidelity, but emotional entanglement. Trust, once the foundation of Remy and Pap's relationship, had been obliterated. And yet, it wasn't just their relationship that was affected, it was the entire family ecosystem. Papoose's daughter reportedly unfollowed Remy on social media. Remy's sister was caught liking shady tweets that hinted she had warned her sister about staying too close to Joe. Even within the family, lines were being drawn. The couple's friends were forced to pick sides. Some tried to stay neutral, but in the world of betrayal, silence is often seen as complicity. Meanwhile, Fat Joe's reputation took a brutal hit. Fans who once hailed him as a legend began labeling him a traitor. Online forums questioned his morals, his loyalty, and his silence. Some fans theorized this wasn't the first time Joe had stepped out of line with a friend's woman. Others speculated that Remy wasn't the only one. Bandwidth. Joe saying nothing. The speculation grew louder and louder. Then came the petitions. A group of fans launched a viral campaign demanding platforms like BIT and VH1 remove Fat Joe and Remy Ma from their programming. Protect Black Love became a trending topic, but not in celebration, in mourning. The couple that once embodied it had, in the eyes of fans, dismantled it. Papoose tried to rise above it all. He began posting cryptic messages about healing, forgiveness, and moving on. But no one missed the pain behind the posts. His music, usually composed and lyrical, became raw, angrier. He dropped an unreleased freestyle on Instagram Live that many believed was a direct response to Remy and Joe. It wasn't labeled. It didn't need to be. Every bar dripped with betrayal. Behind closed doors, legal teams were reportedly involved. Discussions of separation of assets began. Rumors swirled that Papoose had already started filing divorce paperwork. While nothing was confirmed, publicly, insiders hinted that the marriage was all but over. What began as an emotional fallout was now becoming a logistical one. At the same time, Remy was reportedly spiraling. Those close to her described a woman consumed with regret, guilt, and desperation. She allegedly tried reaching out to multiple times through phone calls, texts, mutual friends, and even her mother. But Papoose remained unshakable. His silence spoke volumes. For a man who had once shouted his love for Remy from every stage, every interview, every award show, now he said nothing. The public interpreted his silence as the final nail in the coffin. The narrative had been written. The love story that once defied prison bars and media attacks had been undone by a hotel room and a camera. And yet, the story was still unfolding because there were still things the public didn't know. Secrets buried in the timeline. Footage that hadn't yet been released. Voices that hadn't spoken yet. As fans tried to make sense of what they'd seen and heard, another truth became clear. This wasn't just the end of a relationship, it was the unraveling of a legacy. And just when the world thought the worst had passed, the real storm was only just beginning. While the world gossiped, posted reactions, and speculated wildly, Remy Ma found herself in a space she hadn't been in for years. Alone, cornered, and vulnerable. She had always prided herself on being tough, untouchable, a woman who took control of her own narrative. But this time, there was no beat to rap over, no staged interview to reclaim control. This was different. This was public, messy, and out of her hands. Remy had always been controversial, but never this exposed. Even during her prison sentence, she'd been treated like a warrior, a woman who took accountability and came out stronger. Now, she was being painted as a villain, not by the media, but by her own fans. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was symbolic. To millions, she had broken a bond that people looked up to, something pure in an industry known for chaos. Every social media post became a battlefield. Whenever she tried to speak, whether it was a vague tweet or a blurry Instagram story, the backlash was instant and vicious. People flooded her comments with snake emojis. Fans tagged Papoose under every post, declaring their support for him, calling him a king, a man who deserved better. Memes surfaced of her in orange prison outfits, not mocking her past, but mocking her present, implying she deserved to be back in confinement, not for a crime, but for betraying loyalty. And it wasn't just strangers. Her inner circle was crumbling. People who had once fought for her, defended her in court, promoted her projects, or stood next to her on stage, started fading away. Calls weren't being returned. Features got postponed. Event invitations were rescheduled indefinitely. The industry, quick to uplift, was just as quick to isolate. Remy was learning what it felt like to be famous and friendless. Meanwhile, Papoose, while silent in words, became loud in actions. He was spotted at charity events alone, embracing fans, looking somber but solid. Clips of him interacting with children, speaking at community rallies, or visiting his daughter's school went viral. People labeled him the heartbroken hero, a man who didn't let heartbreak turn him bitter, but better. Every silent move he made became a powerful symbol of quiet dignity. But beneath the composed exterior, things were far from peaceful. Papoose wasn't just walking away from a marriage. He was walking away from a shared brand, a shared empire. Their business ties were extensive. From reality show contracts to brand deals, podcast negotiations, and collaborative music ventures. Everything was entangled. Entangling all of it now meant lawyers, advisors, and a level of paperwork that forced both of them to communicate through legal teams rather than each other. Behind closed doors, Remy was struggling to keep it together. Friends close to her said she was spending long nights revisiting old pictures, listening to unreleased songs they had worked on together, breaking down at the memories. She reportedly even hired a private therapist not to manage the public pressure, but to cope with the personal destruction. This wasn't just about reputation. It was about losing the one person who had seen her at her worst and never walked away until now. And then came the second leak. It was a recording, allegedly a voice note between Remy and an unidentified friend, where she broke down crying, confessing that she had felt lonely, trapped in perfection, and that the incident at the hotel was a moment of weakness that spiraled. The voice note didn't excuse her actions, but it humanized her. Some fans softened, saying the pain in her voice was real. Others doubled down, calling it a manipulation tactic, saying regret only came after exposure. But the recording opened up a new wave of discussions. Conversations about Black women, pressure, fame, loneliness, and temptation flooded the internet. Podcasts debated whether Remy was a victim of emotional neglect or the architect of her own downfall. Feminist circles clashed with loyalists. Men who once stood for Remy's comeback now aligned fully with Pap. The divide wasn't just between her and Papoose anymore. It had split their fanbase, the culture, and even media narratives. And in the middle of all this noise, one person had still said nothing. Fat Joe. Not a tweet, not a comment, not a denial, not a defense. And that silence started to look a lot like guilt. His management team issued a short, sterile statement, saying he remains focused on his business and music and will not be addressing rumors or private matters. But the fans weren't buying it. The streets wanted answers. People wanted to know how long this had been going on. Was this emotional? Was it physical? Was it just once or ongoing? Was Papoose the only one kept in the dark? Internet began connecting people found tour footage showing Joe and Remy disappearing backstage at the same time. A hotel concierge posted a now-deleted TikTok claiming she had seen them together, too close to be just friends. And then, shockingly, another old clip resurfaced. An interview from years ago where Fat Joe jokingly called Remy his soulmate in hip-hop. Back then, it seemed like harmless flattery. Now, it sounded like a confession hiding in plain sight. Everywhere Remy turned, the consequences grew. Her music, streams dropped. Brands began quietly removing sponsored posts. A major fashion label that had recently gifted her a custom look for an award show sent a subtle message that they would not be moving forward with their partnership in the entertainment industry. Image is everything. And right now, hers was in flames. Meanwhile, Papoose continued to rise. His heartbreak had transformed into a brand. He was offered interviews, endorsement deals for Black love brands, and even invited to speak at panels on loyalty and commitment. Everyone wanted a piece of his pain, but Papatrude the character declined in most offers. He wasn't interested in capitalizing on the betrayal. He wanted healing, not headlines. And that's when something truly unexpected happened. One of Rhee's former stylists, someone who had worked closely with her for over a decade, came forward with what she claimed were receipts. Not just one incident, not just one hotel, but a pattern. Allegedly, there had been multiple meetings between Remy and Joe that raised red flags. She claimed she had once walked in on them too close for comfort in a green room. Another time, she said, Remy lied to Papoose about her whereabouts and asked the stylist to cover for her. The stylist's claims sent shock gloves through the industry, and though they weren't confirmed, they added yet another layer to the scandal. This wasn't just a spontaneous lapse in judgment anymore. This was starting to look like a prolonged betrayal. Still, some fans clung to hope. Maybe there was more to the story. Maybe it wasn't what it seemed. Maybe, just maybe, Papoose and Remy could still reconcile, but those hopes were shattered when Pap's cousin, a well-known Brooklyn promoter, posted an Instagram story showing Papoose throwing away a box of photos and memorabilia. Photos of him and Remy, handwritten letters from her prison days, their wedding photos. It was a silent but powerful message. And in that same story, the caption read, "When a real one gets hurt, it's forever." The world now understood this wasn't just a rough patch. This was final. This was irreversible. But even as Rhee's world collapsed and Papoose rebuilt his alone, there was still one question left unanswered. Why did the footage leak? Who recorded it? Who sent it? Was it someone close to Joe? Was it someone trying to destroy Remy? Or was it something far more calculated, a planned takedown from someone within their circle? Because as the days passed, more suspicious details began to surface. The timing of the leak, the clarity of the footage, the anonymous way it was distributed. Someone wanted this to go public. Someone planned this destruction, and whoever it was, they were just getting started. As fans and gossip blogs dissected every second of the hotel footage, a new wave of suspicion crept into the narrative. The question that had quietly been lingering in the background suddenly took center stage. Who leaked the video? Because in a world as calculated as the entertainment industry, nothing is ever truly accidental. The angle, the quality, the timing, all of it felt too strategic to be a coincidence. At first, people assumed it was a hotel employee chasing clout. But as more analysis poured in, experts and fans alike began to point out inconsistencies. The footage wasn't from a regular security camera. It was shot from an insider's phone. The way the phone zoomed slightly adjusted focus and followed Remy and Fat Joe from the hallway into the elevator. This wasn't a random capture. This was intentional. Then came the speculation that maybe someone in Rhee's own team had betrayed her. Maybe a stylist, an assistant, or even a bodyguard. The theory began circulating that someone had grown tired of covering up for her. People recalled past interviews where Remy had clashed with former staff. Former employees who had left quietly, some even unfollowed her, began trending again as internet sleuths dug through years of photos and videos trying to identify who might have been present at that hotel on the night of the incident. And then the biggest twist yet, a voice memo leak. This time from an anonymous source who claimed to be a former friend of Fat Joe's inner circle. The memo didn't name names, but it claimed that the leak was an act of revenge. Not from a stranger, but from someone very close to Remy. The voice in the memo stated that the person who leaked the footage had access to Remy's itinerary, knew exactly which suite she was entering, and most chillingly knew how to make sure the right people saw the clip at the right time. This wasn't just about destroying her public image. It was about tearing down everything she had built with Papoose. Online theories exploded. One name in particular kept coming up. A former female rapper who had once been close to Remy. They had shared stages, supported each other in interviews, and even called each other sisters at one point. But a quiet falling at 2 years ago over a money dispute and a podcast appearance had left their relationship fractured. No longer publicly seen together, no longer tagging each other in posts. Their friendship had ended abruptly, and now the streets whispered that maybe, just maybe, she had been sitting on the ultimate revenge. Meanwhile, Papoose stayed silent. Despite the growing speculation, he refused to address the leak directly. His camp said nothing, no tweets, no comments, but the silence only intensified. The mystery. Did he know who leaked it? Was it someone he trusted? And if so, why hadn't he spoken on it? Remy, now at her breaking point, found herself in total isolation. She wasn't just facing a public breakup. She was being dissected, piece by millions of people she couldn't defend herself against. Every image she posted got flooded with hate. Every story she uploaded got screen recorded and reposted with commentary. Even celebrities started chiming in. Some siding with Papoose, others urging people not to kick a woman while she was down. But just when it seemed like the weight couldn't rise higher, a new set of images were leaked. This time it wasn't from a hotel hallway. It was from inside a room. A blurry, grainy shot showing Remy sitting on a couch in what looked like a robe. Fat Joe standing nearby, shirtless, pouring a drink. The image quality was low, but the message was crystal clear. Whatever people thought had happened in that hotel, now they were sure. It wasn't speculation anymore. It was confirmation. The reaction was nuclear. Rhee's fanbase began collapsing in real time. Her followers dropped by tens of thousands. Brands issued subtle statements about reviewing future collaborations. Radio stations pulled her tracks from rotation. A major music festival quietly removed her name from the lineup, citing schedule conflicts. But everyone knew the truth. She was radioactive in Papoose. He still said nothing. His silence had now become a cultural moment of its own, a symbol of quiet strength. Podcasts debated his stoicism. TV personalities praised his ability to take the high road. He was no longer just a rapper or Remy's husband. He was now being framed as a cultural icon of wounded dignity. But even as the world rallied behind him, people began wondering, how is he really doing? Insiders reported that Papoose had begun therapy not for the relationship, but for the trauma of betrayal. Friends claimed he hadn't stepped foot inside their shared home since the breakup. He was reportedly staying in an Airbnb under a fake name, avoiding press, friends, and even some family. The man who had once spoken so openly about love, commitment, and rebuilding now avoided the word relationship entirely. In private, he was said to be rethinking everything: his future, his brand, his music. He paused work on his upcoming album. He canceled interviews, even his daughter noticed the change. One insider described a heartbreaking moment when Pap, picking her up from school, didn't realize she had asked him a question 3 times, his mind somewhere else entirely. And for Remy, things weren't just bad publicly, they were unraveling legally. According to whispers, in the legal world, Papoose's team had begun preparing paperwork to freeze joint business accounts. Ownership over their shared properties, including a studio, a label imprint, and a digital content company, was now being questioned. It wasn't just about love anymore, it was about money. And in showbiz, money makes things ugly. Then came the biggest revelation yet. A leaked legal document. Someone anonymously sent a copy of a notice of intent to separate assets to multiple gossip pages. The document, though partially redacted, was real. Papoose had filed it 2 weeks after the hotel footage leaked. That meant, while Remy was still hoping for reconciliation, Pap had already decided to separate completely, not just emotionally, but financially and professionally. The shockwaves were instant. The internet declared it the end of Remy and Pap. Not just the end of a marriage, but the end of an empire. A breakup that would send ripple effects through the culture for years. Meanwhile, Rhee's former collaborators began backing away. A high-profile female rapper who once called Remy her big sister, tweeted and then deleted that she had cut ties with a fake friend. A TV producer leaked that Rhee's role in an upcoming show had been quietly replaced. Her team scrambled to control the damage, but it was clear the industry had moved on. And as the internet watched her fall from grace, some began to wonder, could she recover? Could the Remy Ma brand ever survive this level of exposure? And even if it did, at what cost? Papoose had won the public's sympathy. He had protected his image, preserved his dignity, and reclaimed his independence. But Remy, she had been branded with betrayal. No matter how many times she tried to explain, no matter how many healing posts she shared, the damage had been done. The footage, the screenshots, the silence, it had all written a narrative she couldn't control. Still, one question loomed larger than everything else. Who was really behind the leak, because someone had orchestrated this entire downfall? As the world continued to feast on the chaos surrounding Remy Ma and Papoose's explosive breakup, one haunting mystery still consumed everyone's thoughts. Who films and leaked the hotel footage? It wasn't just a curiosity. It was the final puzzle piece in a scandal that had shaken the entertainment world to its core. Every betrayal has a betrayer, and every downfall has a hand pushing it from the shadows. And now that hand was about to be revealed. The gossip blogs were the first to catch wind of the breaking development. An anonymous whistleblower, a former employee of a celebrity security firm, claimed to have direct knowledge of the night the footage was captured. According to the source, the hotel suite had been intentionally bucked and surveilled using a private security contractor, hired not by a stranger, but by a close family associate of Papoose himself. Allegedly, this associate had grown suspicious of Remy's late-night whereabouts and strange inconsistencies in her travel logs. Rather than confront her directly, he took matters into his own hands and arranged for a quiet observation team to follow, and although monitor her activities on her next out of town.